Hello. I know that everybody is sick of hearing about COVID-19 and the pandemic. I don't blame you. This has been a long 10 months. I'm sick of it too. And I'm lucky enough to be living in China, a country in which we really haven't had to worry too much about the pandemic for the past 5 months. Everything, for the most part, has been back to normal for quite a while now. There might be people out there that do a double take when they hear me say that. Here in China, the origin of the virus, I feel safe. It's really not too bad. So let's talk about the last 10 months. In January of this year, I went home to the USA for Chinese Spring Festival. I was only planning to go home for about 10 days, but while I was there, news of the novel coronavirus broke. Obviously, due to the unpredictable nature of the virus and a lot of stuff was up in the air at that time, I naturally decided not to come back to China right away. As reports started to come out that Wuhan would go on lockdown, that entire neighborhoods would be locked down, that people would be locked up inside their homes, they couldn't leave, their doors would be boarded up, I really felt like, hey, it's the right idea to not go back to China right now. It was late January and I was going around my hometown to CVS, to Walmart, to Target, looking for masks. There was none to be found. They were already all sold out. I remember when I was at Walmart, one lady thought I was crazy when I was looking for masks. And when I was at CVS, one lady said, oh, all the Chinese or all the Asians already bought them all. Sorry, we don't have any. Now, I'm not gonna lie and pretend that I thought COVID was gonna be as big a deal as it is, that I thought it was as serious as it is. In the beginning, I thought it wasn't really gonna be a huge deal. But of course, like any rational person, I thought it would be wise to take some precautions and buy masks and prepare for what might happen. Eventually we did find some masks for me and my mom and my family. And I do remember, I believe it was March, that I went to the grocery store to stock up on canned goods and beans and all that stuff. And I was the only one in the grocery store at that time wearing a mask. And I got a lot of strange looks and I personally felt quite awkward. I mean, I've worn masks before in Asia, but it was my first time ever wearing a mask in the USA. In the early stages of the pandemic, I saw the writing on the wall. I knew that I would need to get out of the USA ASAP or that I'd be stuck there. Simply from living in China for nearly a decade, I knew that China would be a safer place to be during a pandemic. It was very clear from the start that one country had leadership that took this seriously while the other country did not. I booked a ticket back to China in mid-March. Some people called me crazy to go from the relative safety of the USA back into the heart of the pandemic, but I felt confident that I was making the right decision. From the time I arrived at the airport in China, it was very clear that they were fighting the virus with all of their power, and that nearly everybody had bought in. Everybody was committed to fighting the virus and to winning. At the airport, the arrival section was organized. There was mass testing being done. There were masks that were required. Extensive contact tracing was done. Just prior to my leaving the USA, President Trump issued the European travel ban, and there were viral videos of packed arrival sections at airports all across the USA, with no social distancing, with no health screenings, long lines, no mask or PPE requirements. Now, what a stark difference in approach. After 2 weeks in mandatory quarantine, I went back to my home in Yunnan province. And even though at that time there weren't necessarily formal restrictions still in place with regards to gatherings, people still stayed home. Masks were required and people wore them. Most non-essential businesses, group activities, informal gatherings, they were still on pause. After a few months of this, of course, people were frustrated, people were tired, but they continued to buy into the requirements for pandemic control. People listened to the rules, people followed them. People listened to science, they listened to suggestions for best practices, and the vast majority of people did not fight the information that they were given. As the country reopened, after 2 or 3 what felt like very long months, people didn't suddenly go into Starbucks and yell at the barista about dying from breathing in their own CO2 because they were wearing a mask. They didn't go to Costco and throw groceries around the store. They didn't print fake cards claiming their doctor would not allow them to wear masks. They simply complied with the rules, listened to the experts, and things continued to gradually get better. Meanwhile, in America, our president and deplorables spread fake news, called the virus a hoax, told you to drink bleach, stole PPE from states, claimed the virus would go away on its own, suggested that masks didn't work, ignored science, refused to learn, refused to adapt, refused to take the virus seriously, and refused to show any compassion to people that were sick or dying or suffering from consequences of the pandemic. If you are a patriotic American, you might suggest that the two approaches differ because America is a free country while China is an authoritarian country. You might argue that the people here in China are not free. You might even go so far as to suggest that people are afraid they'll be imprisoned, or worse, if they don't comply with orders. If you are a patriotic American, You'll say that we are lucky that we have freedom to choose whether to wear a mask or not. You might compare it to a woman's right to choose. You'll beg for attention by filming yourself arguing with retail workers, selfishly fighting tooth and nail to avoid doing the bare minimum to be a decent human being. You'll exhibit a disturbing lack of empathy, and you'll be proud of your selfishness and how it affects your fellow man. You'll do all that because you are a patriot. You'll also be wrong. You'll ignore places like Taiwan or Singapore or New Zealand. You won't care about facts, only American exceptionalism. It is, after all, the American way. In June, while the virus was still considered a serious threat here in China, things began to really start to get back to normal. The virus was under control across the vast majority of the country. Mask mandates began to be removed, and people went out again, socialized in groups, ate in restaurants, and traveled domestically. I personally made my first flight to Chengdu in June. The following month I flew to Harbin, and then Shenzhen, and then back to Yunnan. People continue to wear masks, but no one died from breathing in their own fumes. They also stopped dying from COVID-19 because the virus remained under control. Things are not the old normal, but the new normal isn't that bad. Wear a mask, comply with contact tracing, and that's pretty much it. Here we are now at the end of October. It's been 10 months since the pandemic started. America decided collectively that instead of fighting this disease, we should just lay down and take it. We should just give up. From the outside, it seems like we have no fight, no collective sense of duty, no respect for knowledge, for science, or for community. Far too many of us choose to believe rumors on the internet instead of facts from experts. From the outside, it's mind-boggling. I can't imagine what it's like to be a critical thinker and to be on the inside in America. The saddest thing about COVID-19 in America and our response to it is how simple it is to combat on a personal level, especially in the beginning before extensive community spread. All you needed to do was to wear a mask, only go out for essential reasons, limit your social interactions, and stay home. Yes, all of those things kind of suck. Yes, they might even infringe on your personal freedom. They're not normal, but for most people, they're all very easy to implement individually. And collectively, they would have saved lives and got everything back to the new normal that we are already enjoying here in China. I am extremely saddened by this pandemic, both the loss of life and the change in the way of life. On a personal level, I worry about my family. My mom, who is a nurse, is due to retire at the end of this year. She is healthy and active, but she's obviously on the older side of things. She's trying to hold out until the end of the year when she can retire, but she shouldn't be worrying about the virus, decking herself out in PPE every day, only going from home to work and back home every day for her final working year. I cannot go home to see her, or to see my brother, or to see my nieces. As much as I feel happy and safe in China, I would really like to be able to go home and see the people I care about. I know many other people around the world, and also in America, feel the same way. Especially with the holidays approaching. This shouldn't be happening. None of this really should be happening. Not because China shouldn't have unleashed a virus on the world, but because enough of my fellow Americans, along with our horrific, incompetent, moronic leadership, decided that we didn't want to do the right thing because our own personal thoughts and feelings were more valid than facts, more valid than science, and more valid than a sense of collective responsibility. On the internet and in discussion, I often see things like Asian culture is collective while Western culture is individualistic. And yes, there is some truth to that, but it's also simplistic. It's definitely not the whole story. People are human. Everywhere you go, every country, people really, when it comes down to brass tacks, are the same. People everywhere are still selfish. They want to do what's best for themselves. The difference that I've seen is that here in China, people understand that sometimes doing stuff that's better for everybody is also better for yourself. They realize that their own personal situation can improve if other people's personal situation also improves. People here in China, generally speaking, are wise enough to know that there are other people that are smarter than them, that they should listen to those people, that listening to experts on anything will allow you to learn and to improve. This is not just COVID related. Education is important here. There is value placed on education here. Teachers are respected here, and a teacher can be anybody. It can be a scientist, or it can be any other expert in any other field, but it's valued and it's respected. And so when an expert tells you you should wear a mask because that will help everybody, you'll realize that helping everybody also helps yourself. Now, I am not naive to think that this fight is over here in China or in other countries like New Zealand or Vietnam or other places where things are back to a new normal. We still need to be vigilant, continue to wear masks, continue to do contact tracing, testing, and so on, until we have a vaccine, or until the experts tell us otherwise, or both. I personally do not have any reach on YouTube at all, or on any other platform, so I'm not so sure that this video will be of much help. After 10 months, people are either sick of COVID, sick with COVID, or dead from COVID. I just needed to get this off my chest. I'm tired of it. Even though I haven't really had to personally deal with it for about 5 months already, I'm still sick and tired of it. America and the world, you have a choice. not just with COVID, but with climate change or any other number of crises that we may face. We need to embrace facts, accept truths, respect knowledge, and trust science, or we can collectively choose not to. Instead, we can choose nationalism, isolationism, racism, individualism, American exceptionalism. Americans especially have a choice right now. As I make this video today, there is 9 days until the election. We can fight for truth, compassion, empathy, and collective progress, or we can just lay down and take it, get trampled on, while we scream out, "Don't tread on me." Please, America, go vote and do the right thing.